Wind down tonight with a sleep story designed to soothe your mind and gently guide you into deep rest. This video blends the soothing sounds of flowing water from nature with gentle narration, guiding you through stories of war and unforgettable moments in history. You'll uncover hidden truths behind famous historical figures, explore unresolved mysteries, and reflect on events the world will never forget. All bathed in the gentle flicker of firelight. Perfect for sleep meditation, adult relaxation, or simply drifting off in peace, the black screen creates a distraction-free space for restful sleep. Let the warmth of the fire and calming storytelling carry you into a serene night. We begin with a journey into medieval drinking culture, the brews, the rituals, and the societal chaos that came with it. Let yourself be swept away on a mysterious journey, where love is not merely a feeling, but a tool for manipulation, enchantment, and even the power to shape the fate of empires. In Love, Potions, and Power, we'll walk together through the forgotten pages of history, where potions, spells, and romantic intrigues once shook royal courts, toppled dynasties, and altered the course of nations. From ancient Egypt to medieval Europe, from secretive sorcerers to powerful queens, rumored to have used enchantments to keep a king's heart. Each story peels back a hidden veil, revealed slowly under the soft glow of firelight, guiding you gently into a deep, spellbound sleep. Take a deep breath, settle in, and let each chapter unfold, one by one, with nothing to distract you. Chapter 1. Medieval Intoxication, when drinking was habit, faith, and survival. Imagine you're living in the 13th century, in a small village somewhere in England or France. Dawn breaks. The mist still clings to thatched rooftops, and you begin your day, not with water, but with beer. Yes, beer, a drink so common that adults, children, monks, and even nobles consumed it daily. But not because everyone loved getting drunk. Simply because clean water was almost impossible to find, wells were often contaminated, rivers were teeming with bacteria, and boiling water wasn't a widespread habit. Meanwhile, the natural fermentation process in beer and wine killed off many harmful microbes. People drank small beer, a low-alcohol brew, with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. A 5-year-old child could sip from a mug beside their parents, and no one would blink an eye. But in the evenings, when work was done, stronger drinks began to flow. In a crowded tavern, firelight flickered across flushed cheeks. Laughter echoed over the soft strains of a bard's lute. People clinked mugs not just to drink, but to protect themselves, a tradition rooted in real fear. They believed that if someone had poisoned your cup, the splash of shared liquid would spread the poison to both cups, a medieval gesture of mutual trust. And if you got drunk? That was okay. In those times, being drunk wasn't necessarily shameful. In fact, sometimes it was considered a spiritual act. During certain religious festivals, people drank to the point of collapsing on the ground, believing that intoxication brought them closer to God. It sounds unbelievable, but it's all recorded in historical texts. Of course, drinking didn't always go smoothly. Court records mention drunken nobles starting fights, monks brawling in taverns, and peasants getting so drunk they mistook the cowshed for their bedroom. In larger cities like Paris or London, nighttime alcohol bans were occasionally enforced to prevent riots and unrest. Alcohol was a habit, a comfort, a ritual. It brought joy, chaos, and brief relief in a world full of war, disease, and daily hardship. So the next time you hear a clink of glasses in a dream, perhaps it's a call from a medieval tavern, echoing softly from the past. Chapter 2. The Enchanting World of Ancient Love. Spells and Potions. Real stories from history. Throughout human history, love, with all its beauty and pain, has always stirred a desire for control. When words fell short, ancient people turned to love spells, potions, and mystical rituals to win hearts or drive away rivals. These weren't mere legends. They were real practices, recorded in sacred texts, court records, and magical papyri that have survived for centuries. 1. Ancient Egypt, where love was in the hands of the gods. In ancient Egypt, love and desire were seen as gifts from gods like Hathor and Isis. Spells and rituals were used to awaken passion, often in the form of written charms or wax figurines. One famous love spell was discovered on a Ptolemaic-era papyrus, now housed in the Louvre Museum in Paris. It was directed at a woman named Teromiwe, calling upon divine forces to bind her heart and make her unable to eat, sleep, or rest without the spellcaster. The ingredients in these spells were often deeply personal: menstrual blood, rosewater, mandrake root, and even strands of hair, symbols believed to connect soul and body. 2. Ancient Greece and Rome. Love or obsession. In ancient Greece, love potions called philtro were widely used. The philosopher Theophrastus, a student of Aristotle, wrote about women who mixed powders, wine, honey, and blood to keep their lovers faithful. One of the richest sources of magical recipes is the Papyri Graecae Magicae, a collection of ancient Greek and Roman spells. It contains instructions for love charms using ashes, fingernails, and even the dust of the dead. In Imperial Rome, the infamous Locusta, a poisoner and sorceress under Emperor Nero, was said to have crafted potent love potions and deadly brews, sometimes both at once, to manipulate royal affairs of the heart. 3. Thessaly, land of witches and the moon. The region of Thessaly in ancient Greece was legendary for its witches, especially those who specialized in love magic and drawing down the moon to gain power. In Metamorphoses by Apuleius, 2nd century AD, Thessalian witches were described as being able to drive people mad with love or lust. One of the most common types of spells was the binding spell, engraved on lead tablets, deficciones, and buried in graves. These inscriptions often begged the spirits of the dead to bind the mind and heart of the intended target, making them unable to eat, sleep, or think of anyone else but the one who cast the spell. 4. Medieval Europe. When love met dark magic. In medieval Europe, especially in France and England during the 14th and 15th centuries, love potions, called potions d'amour, were both popular and feared. One famous rumor claimed that Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine gave her daughter a book of love spells, teaching her how to craft potions from roots, wine, honey, and blood. Church records and inquisitorial court transcripts tell chilling stories. Women accused of using menstrual blood in food or burying animal bones under a lover's bed to inspire passion or obsession. Some carried sachets of herbs and dried toad's tongue in secret to curse romantic rivals. 5. Love, sacred, desperate, and sometimes dangerous. Whether used in sacred temples or whispered in back rooms, these ancient love spells reveal something timeless: the yearning to be loved, to be wanted, or simply not to be forgotten. Some spells were soft pleas, others were curses in disguise. But they all shared one thing: the belief that love could be summoned, if one dared enough. Chapter 3. Witches and Love, Guardians of the Heart in Ancient Times. In the ancient world, when hearts ached and love felt out of reach, many turned not to kings or priests, but to witches. These were not the broom-riding villains of later fairy tales, but wise women, cunning men, and mystical healers, guardians of forgotten knowledge, passed down through whispers and generations. In quiet corners of villages, by moonlit rivers, or deep within fragrant herb gardens, these figures held the secrets of desire, devotion, and even heartbreak. A young woman longing for a distant lover might visit a wise woman to craft a charm, made from rosemary, thread, and a lock of hair. A jealous man could ask for a spell to keep his beloved from wandering. A grieving widow might request a ritual to feel the presence of her lost partner once more. These witches worked with the earth: roots of mandrake, petals of rose, thorns of hawthorn, and drops of honey or blood. Their tools were not just plants and powders, but also belief, intention, and a deep understanding of the human soul. In ancient Mesopotamia, clay tablets recorded incantations used to stir love or ward off rivals, many of which were performed by priestesses trained in sacred magic. In medieval Europe, love witches became both feared and needed, often condemned by the church but quietly visited under the cover of night. In parts of Africa and South America, Even today, folk healers still carry the legacy of these ancient matchmakers, blending ritual with remedy. Yet their power always walked a fine line. A potion meant to ignite passion could easily cross into obsession. A charm intended to bring closeness might stir envy or guilt. Love, after all, is never simple, and neither is magic. Still, the presence of witches in the emotional lives of our ancestors reveals something deeply human: our longing to be seen, to be chosen, and to never be alone. So if you hear a soft chant in your dreams, or catch the scent of lavender and ash drifting in the dark, it might just be the echo of an ancient spell, cast not for power or wealth, but for the most mysterious magic of all: love, witches, and love, keepers of desire. Across civilizations, across time and cultures, witches, those mysterious custodians of nature's secrets, played a vital role in the emotional lives of people. From grand cities to remote villages, when hearts broke or yearned, it was often the witch who was summoned in the quiet hours of twilight. In ancient Egypt, sacred love and divine binding. In Egypt, magic wasn't superstition, it was science and religion combined. Love spells were often crafted by priest-magicians who served in temples, especially those dedicated to the goddess Hathor, patroness of love, beauty, and joy. These practitioners created rituals involving wax effigies, symbolic nodding, and sacred incantations, all meant to bind the heart of one person to another. One surviving papyrus details a ritual where the name of a desired lover is whispered repeatedly while burning sacred herbs and shaping wax figures, each step believed to carry divine power. These rituals weren't always secretive. Some were openly performed in temple ceremonies meant to strengthen emotional bonds. In ancient Greece, between passion and manipulation, Greek witches, often women skilled in herbology and folk rites, were known for their philtro, love charms, and kolasis, punishment spells. The most famous example comes from Theocritus's Idyll II, a poem in which a woman named Samitha performs a moonlit ritual to win back her lover using barley meal, a bronze cauldron, laurel leaves, and a wax figurine of her beloved. She chants ancient verses, hoping the magic will call him back. Greek society, though philosophical and democratic, feared female autonomy, and love witches often walked a narrow path between reverence and suspicion. In medieval Europe, folk magic under fire. During the Middle Ages, love magic became a double-edged sword. Folk healers and cunning women across Europe brewed teas, wrote charms, and carved symbols on wax hearts to kindle affection or cure lovesickness. Many of these women were midwives or herbalists, deeply trusted by their communities. But with the rise of church authority, love magic, especially when practiced by women, was condemned as demonic. The Malleus Maleficarum, a 15th century witch-hunting manual, accused women of using venomous substances to seduce or control men. Ironically, this did little to stop people from secretly visiting love witches, even during the height of the Inquisition. In West Africa and the Americas, spirit and seduction. In West African spiritual traditions, love and attraction are deeply tied to the ancestors and the spirit world. Priestesses and root workers used symbolic objects, ancestral offerings, and drumming rituals to invoke favor in matters of the heart. Similar practices emerged in the hoodoo traditions of the American South, where love oils, candle spells, and name paper jars were used to draw in partners or keep a lover faithful. These practices blended African belief systems with indigenous and European influences, creating complex, powerful traditions still practiced today. The power and price of love. Magic across cultures, one truth repeats. Love magic is not just about romance. It is about control, vulnerability, and longing. Witches didn't just provide spells, they offered hope, secrecy, and often a way for the powerless, especially women, to act in a world that restricted their choices. But the power of magic always came with risks. A spell might backfire, or a love born of enchantment might grow cold once the charm wore off. Ancient stories warn of lovers driven mad by potions, or of rivals ruined by curses. Still, the popularity of love witches across millennia tells us this. People have always longed for love so deeply that they were willing to reach beyond the natural world to find it. Scandals of love magic in history. When witchcraft entwined with power and reputation. Across centuries, when love turned into obsession, especially at the crossroads of power and jealousy, love magic became a dangerous tool. Not only commoners, but also nobles, clergy, and royals were entangled in scandals involving enchantments and potions. 1. France. The love spell affair of Catherine Monvoisin, La Voisin, and Madame de Montespan. One of the most infamous love magic scandals in Europe erupted in 17th century France during the reign of Louis XIII. Madame de Montespan, the king's most powerful mistress, was accused of using love potions, infant blood, and dark rituals to maintain the monarch's affection. She was linked to a fortune teller, an alleged witch named Catherine Monvoisin, known as La Voisin, who ran an underground network of black magic and human sacrifices in Paris. Witnesses claimed Montespan had participated in black masses, during which defrocked priests offered infants in sacrificial rites, using their remains in love potions. This scandal became known as the Affair of the Poisons, shaking the very foundations of the French court. Although Madame de Montespan was never publicly tried, her reputation crumbled, and Louis XIV gradually distanced himself from her. 2. Ancient Egypt. Love spells and political intrigue. Papyrus scrolls from the Ptolemaic era, 3rd century BCE, reveal that royal women and aristocrats sometimes used love spells to manipulate pharaohs or rivals. One papyrus, now preserved in the Louvre Museum, includes a spell by a woman invoking divine powers to make a man abandon his wife, lose his reason, and become a slave to love. While the identity of the caster remains unknown, the fact that such spells were found among royal archives shows they weren't mere folklore. They were tools of political influence within palace walls. 3. Medieval Europe, clergy and love magic. Inquisitorial records document cases in which nuns, monks, and priests became embroiled in love spell scandals. In 15th century Spain and Italy, some nuns were accused of using false holy oils, shed hair, and menstrual blood to seduce clergymen or noblemen, claiming it was divine love. A particularly well-known case involved Benedetta Carlini, a 17th century nun in Pescia, Italy. She claimed to receive divine messages, but was later investigated and found to have used spiritual powers to manipulate a romantic relationship with another nun. Though hushed up at the time, her story has since become the subject of modern academic study. 4. Africa and Latin America. Love spells as political tools. In Yoruba culture, Nigeria, love magic was not only used to seduce, but also to weaken the vitality or mind of one's enemies. Colonial records from French and British rule in Africa noted that tribal leaders or noblewomen occasionally used love charms to influence French officers' decisions. In Haiti, during the pre-revolutionary era, women used voodoo love spells to seduce or control colonial officials, extracting secrets, wealth, or social standing. Some of these women were later celebrated as folk heroines,